It's Hearts Standard. I'm Craig Cairns, that's Joel Sked, and we have just watched Hearts win their first domestic game of the season. What were your initial thoughts on that, Joel?
Thank goodness we get to do this one of these. Speaking about 3 points and actually a good performance, a comfortable performance, a professional performance. I was really happy. I don't think you could have asked for slightly better. It would have just been a constant barrage of attacks, because after in the second half it kind of went into a lull. But when you're being realistic, Neil Critchley got asked if it was a dream start, and honestly, he couldn't ask for a better start to his Hearts career. The most comfortable win of the season, scoring in the first half, taking a lead in the first half, all these things.
Starved of all these little things in football.
Starved of all these little things, and they all finally came to be today. And obviously we'll get into talking about the particular nuts and bolts of the performance, but overall I just thought it was a very comfortable, very professional performance, and it just sets us up for what could be a really exciting couple of weeks.
Definitely, yeah. And you've probably noticed, we're usually recording on the other side, but
it's busier.
It's busier here. There's a buzz about here. It's sort of dying down now, but yes, this place was dead by this time the last few weeks when we've been doing these ones. Let's go back to the start of the game. It was quite an interesting team selection. I mean, I think we both predicted a 4-3-3. I think we pretty much got the personnel right, but it was a slightly different shape. Explain how they kind of lined up.
Yeah, so I think even people seeing the formation when it got announced had it as well. When I put it out, it was 4-4-2, just because I asked people at the club. Someone was like, no, is it not 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3? But no, it was 4-4-2, because Jan Danda and Blair Spittle played as wide men, but they weren't really. They were varying their position. They weren't staying out wide, but they were coming in. But they weren't narrowing the pitch. So it was a nice balance there. And then you had Kenneth Vargas and Lawrence Shankland up front, and I suppose it'd be interesting to get ahead of myself, but the fact he took Shankland off first and then kept Vargas on, and then he brought James Wilson on, and instead of Liam Boyce, and he brought him on Kenneth Vargas, and he talked about Wilson after. He said he's got pace, he can stretch the game like Kenneth Vargas, so it's clear that he's going to want to have someone with pace in that final third, especially maybe through the centre, so that might give us an idea of what it'll look like going forward. You had Benny and Malachi Boateng sitting, and then James Penrice and Daniel Oyegoke were encouraged to get forward, so it was a really positive setup, and I think he wanted to make not a statement, but he wanted to show that they were they were there to attack and to try and score goals.
Yeah, because I mean, you could be forgiven for thinking, why do you need Benny Beningame and Malachi Boateng in a home game?
Hello.
in a home game versus St Mirren, you could argue that's overkill. But if you set up like that with two number 10s effectively in front of them, and your two wing backs providing the width, then it becomes an aggressively attacking formation. And not only that, and whether it's the way we set up or just the way the game panned out, I'm not entirely sure. But one of the things I was impressed with, yes, we knocked the ball about quite well in the first half, but I was impressed with the amount of times that when we won the ball, even in defence, and we found a teammate, there always seemed to be players available. Hearts players were always in space and brave on the ball, and we saw a lot of that, which I think's kind of been missing a bit earlier in the season. Yeah,
absolutely. I think you're spot on. I remember you turning to me and saying that, and it's. We'll probably talk about more in detail later on, but it was just the amount of times I've seen Blair Spittle, since we're on a video, I need to step back, but Blair Spittle kind of just doing that with his arms, it just constantly just drifting into pockets of space, which Critchley wanted him to do, and then Boateng and Benny, who I thought were really solid, covered just two hard-working guys who can recycle the ball.
They're good on the ball as well, though. That's it.
And that's important, because they've got an understanding, they've got intelligence in there that they are going to make themselves available for that possession. Because the amount of times that Kent was, the good thing, we didn't see a lot, or I certainly didn't feel like it. There wasn't a lot of just going round the defence or Kent and Rolls. There was actually trying to get somewhere and get players on the ball further up the pitch. So yeah, that was really encouraging.
And Kenneth Vargas gets his first goal of the season, his first goal for Hearts the season. He scored for Costa Rica in the week there. It was a lovely move to set him up. Shankland involved in it, and we were purposefully trying to get down the sides, go one side, go the other side, and that was a really lovely move that opened that. Were you confident he was going to finish it when he was through?
More confident than I was at Aberdeen, because I think this is something that he still has to develop, but he's quite an instinctive finisher. If he doesn't have a lot of time to think about it, I think he's a lot better. Whereas like the Aberdeen game, he had so much time to think about it, probably overthought it, but he just had to do it quick off his left foot, so he had to use power. And yeah, absolutely delighted for him, because I think everyone's been disappointed with his productivity this season, just because he nearly got to 10 goals last season. And when I was looking at someone to really kick on, and I think when I was choosing player of the season, who I tipped for player of the season, it was Vargas, because I thought great first season, good foundation platform to build on, and I just thought he was just going to go like that. And obviously with the way the season's gone, individually and collectively, it's not worked. You can never fault him for effort, because he'll give you so much, but he's just not been delivering as we need him to deliver in the final third. Again, we've seen it at Aberdeen, but no, it was really encouraging, really delighted for him, because I've seen on social media, and I can understand fans getting frustrated and kind of some maybe just kind of writing him off or really doubting him, but there's talent there, and I really do feel that with the right environment, and if he can make the necessary tweaks. I know Stephen Naismith talked about he needs to own it in the final third, especially when he gets in the box, that he's in control. Once he can get those parts and be more consistent, we've got a really, really good player on our hands.
Yeah, because that pace, because it's difficult. It's difficult to cope with that pace, and if you can add a bit of technique
and the constantness to it, because it's not, he won't just make 2 or 3 runs a game. He's constantly on the move, and he's just a pain in the arse.
And it was giving us a second option for the passing about we were doing. We were still looking to find him in behind quite a bit. I mean, you could be forgiven maybe after the first half with how much dominated, only scoring 1 goal, maybe being a little bit apprehensive going into the second half, but it was kind of before St Mirren even got a chance to, they made 2 subs at half time, changed their shape, before they even got a chance to settle into that. Oyegoke scored an absolute beauty. Now, what an absolute beauty of a goal, but from St Mirren's perspective, I mean, he just gets the ball just inside the St Mirren half, and then just waltzes up to the edge of the box and takes a shot. I know we're not here to talk about St Mirren, but it was absolutely shocking defending.
Aye, they were absolutely humpty, and Stephen Robinson, I think he's managers in general. They're quite good at like kind of explaining like why they lost, and maybe it's not because they got it wrong or they're really terrible. He actually just came out today and just said they were absolutely pants. But I remember he said to me, "It's like I'm sure Oyegoke just picked up the ball halfway line." It's like, surely not, because they seem to have it for ages, and he just ran him. I think it was Benny's reaction to it, because Benny couldn't, I think Benny summed up everyone, even Oyegoke, with his disbelief at just how good a goal it was. And I mean, when you're looking at the starting 11, and this isn't like a criticism, just you rank the players. In terms of the outfielders, Oyegoke's probably the weakest on the ball, I would have said, out that starting 11, not including Craig Gordon. But then, and the fact that he's right-footed, so he's not got much of a left foot, and then he does that, just one of those things. It's on a day like today, that just goes for you, and what a goal it is.
We put a gloss on it towards the end. I think he was asked if there was Neil Critchley was asked if it was a perfect day. He said he probably couldn't have asked for anything more. I think if there was one criticism, is that they lost control of the game a little bit in the second half. I don't think St Mirren were good enough on the day to really punish Hearts. But what Critchley was getting at after the game there was saying that it doesn't matter, because something could fall for you, like the ball could just fall a certain way and then you're in one-on-one, or you score from a set piece. And the way Hearts are, I'd imagine, we didn't get to see it tested, but I'd imagine there could have been maybe a fragile mentality there if St Mirren had got a goal at 2-0 there. Yeah,
absolutely, because we were sitting there and you're comfortable. The game just kind of it felt there was nothing in it, and I think that's one of the reasons why he took Shankland off is because he wanted Vargas's pace to stretch St Mirren so they couldn't just keep pushing up with if there was no pace there, and then he wanted to bring kind of Danda because he signalled to him to be a 10, so he switched formation and
basically replacing Shankland but playing a little bit deeper.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he probably wanted a wee bit more control in there, because I think he was frustrated by the just like saying the best form of defence is continuing to attack, but we've seen it. Like especially St Mirren, teams in this division can play really poorly, but they can put balls in the box, and they've got guys who can make it awkward for you. We've seen it this season where at times we've just not defended it correctly, but thankfully that didn't happen. Gordon didn't have a save to make. I think he had a cross shot that he had to push away, and then aside from that, I thought Rowles and Kent were solid.
Yeah, I mean, just before we go on to the final goal and talk about Spittle's performance, I think the defence do deserve a mention. That's the second clean sheet of the season, but not only just that, but Kent and Rowles were just getting in the way of everything. I was impressed with, again going back to something I said earlier, I was impressed with how often Rowles, for instance, found a teammate rather than just the ball aimlessly going up the park. But yeah, for all St Mirren weren't that great in attack, I think the Hearts defence deserves a lot of credit for the way it played today. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you've got at the moment, if everyone stays fit, I think you've got a defensive four there that you just have some consistency coming into the season. I think if we were talking about what would be the best or most settled back four, I think very few people had this back four. But I think we've seen, and I know Kai Rowles can people doubt him, and there's still elements of his game where you think he need to be more dominant. But I do think him and Kent have a really good balance with their partnership.
That's what I like about it, because I mean, it's Hearts, they're not going to have complete world-class defenders. You know what I mean? There's going to be flaws here and there, and I think you do get a good bit of everything from that partnership.
You do. Kent wins everything. Really good positioning, knows where to be, heads it, blocks it, clears it. Rowles does that to an extent, but not nearly as well. He's not nearly as dominant physically in the aerial. He's probably kind of just looking in terms of Premiership centre backs. You'd be down the list, but he is good on one-on-one. He's quick. He's really good on the turn as well. So you've got to realise
the ball as well.
Good on the ball. Yeah, like you said, there was a few really nice passes he played out from the defence today.
And Blair Spittle, Neil Critchley said at the end of the game, thankfully it looks like it's just cramp and not a hamstring issue. I think if it had been a hamstring issue, I'd like to think he would have come off the park rather than play it up front for the last 30 seconds or whatever it was. But yeah, Neil Critchley said he epitomised the performance, not just his goal, but the build up to his goal epitomised his performance today. He was pressing in injury time there. Yeah. He almost forced a goalkeeping error from pressing earlier in the second half, on almost a really embarrassing moment for the goalkeeper. It was his pressing that won a 50-50 for the opening goal, and then just on top of that, it was more of what we've come to expect from Spittle now, spraying the passes about and just getting involved everywhere.
And I was just going to say, there was one other pressing moment where it was in the first half, and he went from the left to the right. And Gogic, and and then they had to turn back. It forced St Mirren to turn back to go to the goalkeeper, and then it gets a massive round of reception. Hearts fans love that. Yeah. I think I don't think just Hearts fans are special with that. I think all fans, especially Scottish football, love players who are just continue to run, put others under pressure, because that's what Neil Critchley wants. He wants Hearts. Well, he says that he wants Hearts to be a team that nobody likes playing against, and it's moments like that with Spittle, or moments like you described as well, which make it that. He looked like he had so much energy, so much legs, which I didn't really see. We didn't see early on in the season, and then the quality on the ball. I think he was always looking for it, always wanting to be involved. Great finish,
good finish. Really he's got that in him.
So I think we're beginning to see the real Blair Spittle, because he was the one, probably the first couple of months, I'm just thinking, just one of those where you know he's a talented player, but I don't know if he's going to work at Hearts. I know it's early and me making judgments, but I'm so happy to turn around.
I was the same, but I mean, and we kind of touched on this recently, but a few weeks ago we were looking at the new signings and think, if any of these improved on what we already have, and now you look at Ugoke, the last couple of games, Penrice, Boateng, Danda and Spittle, those first two established themselves as a bit more than the latter two, but that's for new signings now who are played themselves into the first team now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's
starting lineup, I should say. Yeah,
they starting lineup, and I know Critchley he's talked about he's going to change, and he'll make tweaks and rotations, but I don't think we'll see it on a big scale. And I do think you've got those players that started today with probably 3 or 4 others, which I think that's going to be like the core, and then the others will getting dripped in and out, because we've seen Salazar and Musa didn't get on the bench. Whether we see much more of them in the Hearts jersey, I probably might have more faith in maybe seeing Salazar more so than Musa, but at least there are we're beginning to see signs of a spine to this Hearts squad.
And finally, just to finish off here, it's a big week. After this, Hearts have Omonia Nicosia home in the Conference League. Win that, and I'm not saying it's like a foregone conclusion or anything. I'm not getting ahead of myself. But the point is that if Hearts win that, it's one foot in the in the knockout phase. Yeah. And then after that, it's a derby. I think you're right in that there will be changes just because of the amount of games coming up. But it could go from strength to strength this week.
Massive, and I don't think I'm not sure we even mentioned that the fact that Hearts are off the bottom of the table and replaced by Hibs, who were somehow winning at 5 o'clock.
It's so funny that it's like shades of was it 2012 or something, when they were like they were bathing in Schadenfreude at Hearts' demise, and then took themselves down while they were doing it. It's like Hearts have taken 10 games to get going this season, and yet somehow they're still above Hibs in the table.
it's just so hard. It's just so this rivalry. But you're right. This week's huge. Like coming off the back, just like the feel good factor. Like I know how we're both feeling and being able to do this positively, and the feel good factor of that, you win in Europe. And you're going into an Edinburgh derby where Hibs fans are probably just going thinking this is going to be the worst. They're the worst nightmare. They're having a disaster. We've got a new manager. Basically, just say 2 wins on the bounce, and folk are just going to be so up for it. It's just so enthused, and a completely different change of mindset from like last week or Monday this week. It's exciting. The first thing I probably said this.
Exactly. I know, and if you think we're getting too ahead of ourselves, we're allowed to be a wee bit excited, because we've been starved of excitement all season. But that's it from us just now.
Can we just say about James Wilson, his first ever goal for Hearts?
Please take it away.
And it's probably not the. I think Critchley said this. It's probably not the goal you'd maybe expected to score, but it was a poacher's goal, and it's put himself about the all count, of course. But it was what stood out for me was Liam Fox's reaction at full time. He was basically just he was so made up for him, and it's just I just think it's encouraging that he's played Wilson, and I mean, you look at the bench, he could have brought on a few more. Like there's a couple of experienced players, namely Liam Boyce, who could have came on up front, but he's chosen James Wilson, which is really encouraging going forward. So a class way to round off.
Certainly is. Thanks for that, Joe. So that's all from us. Please make sure to check everything out at heartstandard.co.uk. If you haven't already, please share, subscribe and like. I've said them out of order, but we'll just ignore that, and we'll catch you all soon.